in God for this congregation. That hope was not realized overnight, but over time. Little by little, Saint James evolved and emerged into who she is today. The people who helped to birth her were hopeful that this faith community could bear witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ. They were hopeful that they would have a chance to help the emancipated slaves have a place to educate the mind, body, and spirit, for the hope of making disciples, teaching people how to love God, love others, and serve God in the church and in the world. This congregation began. And for the hope of continuing to make disciples, for the privilege of touching lives through Jesus Christ, for the opportunity to move to a place of significance in this community, for the desire to be a church that reaches a new generation, for the opportunity to be an oasis for senior saints and all those in need of healing and wholeness, for the privilege to reach out to others, for the blessing of bearing much fruit, expanding our ministry and mission, using the gifts of creativity, imagination, and love, we press forward into the promised land God has for us. Well, in order to encourage us to move on in our journey, God reveals some stipulations in this scripture. In our scripture today, God is speaking of the covenant God is making between God and Israel. And it's very clear that in this covenant, we have a part to play. God always performs God's part. But we have a part to play. And God is helping us to understand beforehand how the fear factor can creep in and how we might want to deal with that and take it seriously, because it can seriously affect our destination. In verse 20, God says, I'm going to send an angel in front of you to prepare the way. And then if you go to verse 21, God says something else. God says, be attentive to him and listen to his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgression. For my name is in him. In the scripture, God reveals God's understanding that we can rebel against God when we are in the process of possessing the promised land and not fulfill our part of the covenant. We can make the mistake of looking at the one who is bringing the message instead of the messenger. God is saying, in other words, I'm sending my angel. In other words, God's angel is God's ambassador, God's representative to do this work. Unless you rebel against him, he has the authority, because I'm in him. Come on now, somebody.